Hello, my name is Ronaldo, and welcome to GearCity. GearCity is a quite the interesting little car company management tycoon game. I'd also add in a bit of a sandboxy feel when you get successful, because you can really screw around. But we'll get into that maybe, if we get that far. It's developed by Eric Jones of a company named Vent with some artwork support, I guess. It's quite fun, I have to say. Even though I'm not a car person, I do enjoy this game. But let's go ahead and just jump into the game, I guess. Now, this is the setup the game window, where you basically set up the rules of the game. Now, well, let's just save it as Let's Play 1. The game does have a bit of a soft Iron Man mode. You can dodge it easily, but it's sort of intended that you only play as one save. But you can dodge it by just saving as another, like, say here, Let's Play 2, and then you can just go back to Let's Play 1, which it won't be saved again. Whatever. So, here we can set the starting year. 1980, 1950, 1930, or 1900. 1950 and 1980 are probably the more easier starts. 1930, of course, has a major event down the line. 1900, of course, has one too. And these, there's going to be a somewhat more established industry to actually, take part in, consumer base, I suppose. 1900, you're really restricted. There's only really two cities that you can really start off easy. A lot of the other places you can start off and end up don't have enough population. They don't have enough economy to really support you, etc., etc. So let's go ahead and we'll start in 1900. It's the most restrictive start, but I consider it fun. I prefer to start out in the earliest time frame I can in games like this. Longer playthrough, I guess, whatever. It's the beginning of the 20th century. The technological advancements of the Industrial Revolution has spurred growth in many Western European nations. The invention of the Bessemer process in steel manufacturing has spurred a second wave of industrial growth. Politically, the Spanish-American War has recently ended. Much of Africa is colonized by European nations, and they're probably screwing the hell out of Africa. Anyways, and tensions are growing in Europe. Many car companies were founded in this time. Most failed. Really yours? The dawn of the age of the automobile is about to begin. Now, for difficulty setting, I'm just gonna go with normal. I could go hard. I have played this again, but it's been quite some time since I've done a proper playthrough. And I don't know how well I would be able to cope with hard. This is the advanced settings. We can have no starting factory or branch, and we have to build them. No wars, no major economic fluctuation. Start with a bank loan. Can be fired. This is to do with stock market stuff. If you sell your company stocks, you end up having to be subjected to your stockholders or whatever. There's also benefit system. I believe it has to do with like your workers. They want stuff, I guess. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it off. I haven't played around with it yet, and I generally don't sell my stocks anyway, so that doesn't really affect me. You can set your own defined starting funds. I think the starting funds you have are perfectly adequate. Your mileage may vary. So, we'll just leave those. Let's continue. Here, we choose where we start. Now, you can choose anywhere technically. You could start it here in Anchorage, or Porto Montt, Chile, or Australia, and get attacked by venomous kangaroos or something. Generally, when I played, I started in Europe. You know, generally, you want to get into the London market if you start in Europe. You know, set up some factories, export your vehicles there. London is kind of the go-to place to get started. But for this playthrough, I think I'm going to be going with New York. The United States, New York is probably the second best start economically speaking. They have 3 million less population, but they have a bunch of, pretty not bad places they can jump into. And it also has an advantage of when it comes to two major events, it gives you a little bit more room to maneuver, I think. But we'll go ahead and start new. Now, for the name, I'm just going to go with my usual Ryle Duroc. If you don't, accidentally hit enter. Ryle Duroc is my go-to name. If you don't know why, Ryle Duroc, Rylder, my username is Rylder. Now, company name? Company name generally, it doesn't mean too much. It's just, when you make a car, it's your company name, the car brand name or whatever. So for this, I usually go with something a little bit political. But for this, I'm just gonna go with Mythos. Mythos, I think, will, it'll be flexible for picking car names that fit with the overall theme. How about that? And I can easily think of names with it, I believe, since I do enjoy mythology sometimes, so Mythos is sort of a name that you can, go like the Mythos Thor, or the Mythos Zeus, or Mythos Hermes, or Ra, or whatever. You can dip into religions and stuff, and, there's some cool names you can attach to that. It's not really restricted. For the company logo, they're not too fancy. I usually go with this one. I do like that design, but there's a few of these. Oh, there's a little bunny. Oh, it's adorable. There's a dragon. Bunnies and dragons. Yep. We'll go with. Let's go with this, I think. Yeah, not too fancy. Simple. AI settings. This is how many AIs are out there, and you can choose 10 to 25 largest, or random 100, or random 200. I'll just go with it. Random 100. Companies are bought out and they die, and more are created over time as I believe, to take up the 100 slots or whatever. I just leave it at 100. It's fine. And welcome to our office, where we manage the game. This is our little, lets us know what's going on. Goes into outside, where you can do racing, the racetrack. There's a showroom where you can see all your cars and how they're doing a little bit. And the R&D, which is the most important place you'll be going. And we have end turn, we have music. I'm going to turn down the music a tad. And we have saving. This is where you save. Oh, what I said. And we have the world map where we can see how the world goes. Oh, and we saved the game. You can see that we have infrastructure, manufacturing capacity, and per capita. Per capita is pretty important. Generally, you want to sell a vehicle around 5, keep it under 5 times that. So if it's over 5 times that, most people won't be able to afford it or something. At least it's something like that. I don't know the whole details. We have memos. We get like research complete and whatnot. We have our whoa, that glitched out there. We have our sales book. It's sort of in a browsery type thing, but we can see sales. There's not much to see yet right now. Expenses. You can see that we're paying $1,000 a month, $1,400 a month on factory upkeep, and for the most part it's zero. We haven't really jumped into that. Contract revenues and whatnot, it'll come into importance later. We can call human resources and the lobbyists. Lobbyists is important to get going when you start expanding. For the most part, it's not that important yet. It's just good to have later. Human resources. This deals with wages and stuff. And we have the this is the GearCity monthly car magazine. It's not a really important window that I have open. It has some interesting stuff, like there's vehicle reviews and class challenges. There's no vehicles out in the market yet, so it's kind of bugging out here. Aero manufacturing news. This is advertising the developer's game that he'll work on after GearCity is finished. It is still in early access as of this video. We have superlatives. Nobody has created any parts or anything yet, or vehicles, so there's no awards or anything. It'll fill out with details later. We have some news. New company founded. A new auto manufacturer named Mythos has been founded. The company enters a growing market for vehicles. When asked what separates Mythos from other manufacturers, I say new CEO Ryle Drock said Mythos will fix what's broken with other manufacturers. Oh, burn! Keep what's good and end up one of the greatest companies in the world. Other companies can only dream at our magnificent products we will bring. The new company's first task will be design a vehicle or figure out some other way to bring in some revenue in an exciting industry. We have someone dies. He died twice. Red circle reports, whatever that means. Yeah. And we have this. We have the bank where we can take out loans, and we can have a line of credit if we can put out bonds and raise money that way and whatnot. We can cause them to mature, whatnot. We have a gun. Oh, this is new. A couple of grains of powder, a couple of grains of lead, a touch against the trigger, a touch inside the head, Megadeth. Oh. Oh. That's new. They apparently added the ability to commit suicide. Oh, and it's Teddy, our favorite stuffed teddy bear. We have a bomb. We have this is the public companies. We'll get into that a bit. We're not going to put IPOs out, stocks out, but it's something to play around with later when we have money to burn, if we get that far. So to begin with, we need to get a car on the market. And that's, of course, what this is for. But before we do, we need to find out what kind of vehicle we want to sell. Each region has their own favorites when it comes to vehicles, you know, their demands. And to begin with, let's see what is in demand for North America, which we are based. And we'll click here. We see here that pickup trucks and sedans are above average. So we can build one of these and we will probably do alright. So we can, full-size sedans aren't too bad, Phaetons aren't too bad either, luxury sedans. So, you know, generally when we design a vehicle, we want to be one of these. So, you know, good to know. Let's go ahead and head to the R&D department. Takes a second to load. Now this is the R&D department. So, we need to make a vehicle, we need a chassis, an engine, and a gearbox. We must design a chassis and whatnot. Technically, we don't need to design one ourselves. We could wait a couple turns and some company will put out those parts onto the license system, and you can just pay for a license and you'll have to pay a little bit of fees and stuff for it. You might come out money ahead that way. You don't have to design the parts yourself, but I designed them myself. There's enough money to spend on it. Now, I like to start out with an engine. Now, there is an assisted mode that is easy. I just do advanced. It's not that hard to figure out. Welcome to this wizard, the engine design setup wizard. Now, this is just the basic layout of the engine. And for it, we can choose a variety of different bases. We can have a single cylinder, a straight, a V, a flat, a radial, rotaries, a steam engine, which I have done. We might play around with that if we get successful. Electric engines, not really useful at this point in the game. It probably will come in handy, probably get pretty useful in like the 1990s or something, or the 2000s. Generally, the V straights and the V's are the most efficient. They're, you know, cheapest and they have enough power, and, you know, they're the best. There's a reason why they're the most common engines in cars these days, in reality. But we can also have flat engines, which are sort of like V engines, but they're flat. We can even have radial engines, like we're a World War II plane, or a rotary engine, like we're a World War I plane. And rotary engines are my favorite engine, because really, a rotary engine has the cylinders spinning around a static crankshaft. And that is just amazing to me. I don't think they really were used in cars much. I do know that they were used in a car. If you look it up on YouTube, it's a cool, you can see it. still running. There's videos of it running. It's pretty cool. I have screwed around with those in cars. In an old save game, I had one like a several hundred horsepower rotary powered horse racing car, and it was amazing. But anyways, let's focus on here now. Straight for our first vehicle, we don't need much. We just need it to go forward, essentially. Now, we're not going for a fancy car at the start. It's not really workable. What we need is to make the people's car. We need a cheap car that we can sell to the masses. And to do that, we need to start small, you know. And I think this is historically accurate, you know. What really got the car industry going was companies putting out cheap vehicles, I think, that people could, you know, afford, and it got the car industry going, really. So, both of these are actually pretty workable, but seeing that this is the United States, and the United States likes a little bit more power, I think, and we might make a pickup truck at the start. Since I've never really started with a pickup truck in this game this far. So, let's go with a straight. We'll have a couple cylinders, you know. Now here we, of course, check the cylinders. I'm not going to read these. You can pause and read, I guess. Or we can have, you know, up to 6 cylinders. Now this will grow with time as you research. Same with, there are a few engine layouts that you get to later on. For this, we're just going to go with 2. Fuel, gasoline, there are other fuels. Like if you choose a steam engine, it will be water. Now you're probably asking, why would a steam engine have water? Well, because if you have a steam engine in a vehicle, the water is going to be what limits your range more than anything, I'd assume. And that's what I think the developer has explained several times on the forum to people. But we'll just go with standard gas. Now we can have different valve trains, I guess. I'm not sure like the full details of how all these work. Generally, you want to get something better than 2-stroke, just for a little bit of power, more power. There is another one that comes at. These do change over time, the better ones. As you can see, this gets more. They get different power ratings and stuff. This is of course the cheapest and less efficient as far as the engine goes. We'll probably go with like an L valve or flathead. But we'll leave it at L valve for now. Naturally aspirated, you can get turbos and stuff later. So let's go ahead. Now there is no like engine graphics. Oh well. This window here is mainly for this. The design here. Now, let's go ahead and set this as our estimation stuff for. Now, bear in mind, you can design this in any order. I start with the engine because when you design the chassis, you want have an engine that you can base what you're built or whatever. You can to set the build basis, you know, does this to build around the engine essentially. So we'll start with a pickup truck since that's what I'm angling for here. So it gives like a generic for a basic vehicle estimation. As you can see, at this current basic design, it'll go 18 miles an hour and we'll get 4 miles to the gallon, or 2 kilometers per liter. So, but that's sort of an expensive engine for a cheap people's car, I think. So we're going to knock a lot of these sliders down and make a shitty crap engine that probably runs like crap. We're going to we don't need dependability. We don't need fuel economy. We don't need much in the way of performance. We don't care about weight. We don't care about the length and the width. Sorry about that. We don't care about fuel economy. We don't care about the component quality. Now this is affecting, and it's good. When we increase the length and width, we did increase the power. We're going to lose that extra power. We're probably not going to have 6. We're probably not even going to have 4 horsepower. We don't need manufacturing techniques. We don't need material quality. Wow, this. And as you can see, we've nearly gone down $100. We can set these down too. We don't need torque and horsepower. 1 horsepower engine. What does this do for it? Well, we can still get 5 miles an hour. And we're getting 4 miles per gallon. But it's only costing us $115. You know, let's see if we can get 2 horsepower. There we go, 2 horsepower. And that'll get us 10 miles an hour. For a cheap people's car, that's perfectly adequate. You know, we don't need much. Let's see what the valve trains, which will be the biggest effector here. Let's see what they do. That goes down to, that gives us $1, but we lose our extra horsepower. What does our T-head? It gives us same horsepower, but costs more. We'll just go with the L-head. It seems to work. We don't need it much more than that, do you? Do we? We could try and, well, 22 inches, I guess. By 22 inches is fine. Let's go ahead and build that. Now, I do have a standard naming convention I give to my parts for the engine. It's simple. We're straight, so we have 2 cylinders, 2, and we have 2 horsepower, so 2 horsepower, and the year is 1900. So, 1900. Built. Let's go ahead and build a chassis for that engine. We'll do carriage. There is going to be more there. We only have the choice of this right now. Front rear. Generally, front rear seems to be the best overall. I do screw around with the others, especially if I make a compact vehicle, but this is fine. We'll have leaf spring. At this juncture, we're looking for cheap and durable, I guess. These do have more performance, but I don't know. This works. We can choose different ones for the front and rear. We'll just go with that. Now we have the same sort of panels pop up here. Let's see if we can make a cheap frame for our cheap people's car. Let's go ahead and get this, and we'll put in our engine. Right now, it actually gives us a little bit more speed. Now, these warnings, yeah, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to get something that moves at this point. Alright, see. Let's go ahead, put this here. This will tell us if it fits. Alright. Let's go ahead and shrink us down. See right here, engine length and engine width are what we're aiming at. We only need 22, so let's just keep it at 22. It might be better to balance these off a little bit, so I'm probably going to do that a little bit. We're trying to get the cheapness after all. There we go. There we go. Fit. Now for these, These do affect weight, which does affect performance, but we don't need to worry about that too much. If we don't need it to be tall, we don't care too much about the weight, and these really bring down the price. Let's see, we got stability here. These doesn't seem to affect anything except a little bit on the chassis suspension comfort. Knock it down. Ride comfort, knock it down. Performance, knock it down. Braking, who needs brakes? We'll see. We might knock up one of these or something. Durability, that makes it easier to build anyway, so knock it down. Design performance, knock it down. Design ride cover, knock it down, knock it down. What's that? 6.1, yeah. Dependability, knock it down. Component quality. You know, we're just trying to get some cheap vehicles that people can buy and see what we end up with. Then we bait and switch them and sell them overpriced junk or something like that. We don't need any technology in this. Technology is for scrubs. We don't need any manufacturing techniques. As you can see, we're now $60. That's pretty cheap. So we'll go ahead and go with this. You know, it's crap. It's fairly strong, but it'll do. Maybe we can see if there's anything here that we can knock off to get a little bit extra overall. There we go. That'll do. $60 for that. Let's go ahead and build that. Now, I do have a naming convention for these two. Front rear 22 by 22 1900, I believe. There. Now we need a gearbox. The gearbox we just do last. There's not much we can do at this point. We're not going to go fast enough to really need any gears anyways. The gearbox sort of, you know, busts up everything. Alright, there's only 3 windows here. Let's go ahead and put this into a pickup truck, and we'll put our chassis. Sorry, bug there. Let's actually exit this, and there we go. We'll select our engine. Right now, it gets 14 miles. We actually gained 14 miles per hour out of that, though this might be due to the gearbox. So, let's see if we can cut corners on this crap too. We don't need much in the way of maximum torque. We're not going to get anywhere near that anyways. We don't need fanciness here. We don't need that. We don't need that. We don't need that. We'll buff up the development pace just to get it done on time with everything else. We'll knock these down. So what has this done for us? We're still getting 14 miles an hour. Probably not the most comfortable to knock it into gear. This probably isn't going to affect much. We'll just screw around with it and just get it. This isn't even going to affect price or anything. We'll just try and get the best stars out of it. This gets the sort of a fuel versus performance rating. It's not affecting the gearbox rating itself. There we go. That'll give us a little bit more. Doesn't really affect the speed or anything because it is only one speed. We're not really, you know, not much fanciness here. It's $50. We'll put it in. We'll just have it on 1 speed, non-sync, 1900. Non-sync, 1900 there. Now, we got these. This is our research teams. This is some of the stuff that'll come in later. We can fund, we're not going to, we don't have the money. So, we have these researching 5 months, 5 months, and 4 months. I guess I put too much research on that. Oh well. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and put these onto the license system. Because maybe one of the AI companies starting up, maybe they want some cheap crap to put on to use, and we can maybe make a few extra bucks that way. So, 2,000. Give us $5 per chassis you use. And we'll do the same for engines. For 2,500, and we'll give us $6 for it. There we go. And we'll do the same for the gearbox too. The AI will contract out your parts that you put on, just like you can do the same for them. And I find it quite interesting when the AI does do that, and I'll look up their vehicle that they made. It's something a little bit fun to do. Now that we got things researching, we'll take that long to research. Now all we have left is to wait. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut the video here. Check my audio and whatnot. Maybe put it up on YouTube, and and when we come back, we'll go through to the next turn and get to actually designing a vehicle. Ta-ta.